welcome back to the Right Hand Gals podcast. It's Renee.
And I'm Lyssa. Renee always starts these episodes because I get stage fright. I think you've started every single one.
I know. I love greeting people, so it kind of fits.
As soon as it's time to go, I'm like, wait, I don't even know what my name is.
Well, what's funny is, so Lyssa and I, obviously, we record these videos and we put them on YouTube. So we're on Zoom right now. And I always see Lyssa, we do a 3, 2, 1 and we clap so we can start recording and we're synced up for our audio. But every time it's we're sitting there, I'm like, all right, she is not going to say a word. So I always am the one that says hi.
Every time I'm looking at her she's going to do this right.
I love it. Well, this is why we work well together, honestly.
I know. Truly.
We have different strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Starting the podcast is Renee's.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take that role on. Today, we're going to talk about... Oh my gosh, brain fart. Yes, thank you, Lyssa. See? I told you we had different strengths. Our career paths. But first,
we got
Lyssa,
I was just going to say that we got a really interesting question in our DMs on the Right Hand Gals. On Instagram, somebody asked us specifically what a career path would look like in this industry. So thank you.
Great question.
If that was you. Yeah, so we'll go into that during this episode. But like Renee said, let's start with our highs and lows of this week.
All right, Lyssa, what are your highs and lows for this week?
Ooh, okay. Not related to work at all, but in my normal everyday life. We're renovating our house, if you don't know that, and my husband has been working a lot of hours, so we haven't been able to get a ton done. So my dad stopped by the other day and he offered to help us build out our pantry, and
oh my
so
gosh,
he's coming over this weekend, and I'm so excited. We built a pantry, framed it all out, put drywall, whatever, because we didn't have a pantry in our house. And so when we redid the kitchen, we built a pantry, and it has been empty since May of last year when we built it. That means all of our food is just kind of stored in random drawers in the kitchen. So I'm working like crazy this week to design it. And then Michael and I are going to go buy all the materials before the weekend. And then my dad's going to come by on the weekend, and we are going to knock it out. And I'm so excited.
That's so exciting. Every time you get on Instagram, and full transparency, we text every single day, every single hour. It's Lyssa and I's relationship is your first boyfriend or girlfriend in 4th grade, and you text every single minute of every day. That's how I feel Lyssa and I are. We'll just randomly be texting, and then it'll be like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But every time I see on Instagram that she's basically finishing up another section of her house, I'm like, how in the world do you do this? So props to you.
Fun. Thanks. That's my high. And then my low is I did the stupidest thing this week. I'm just going to preface this by saying, do not place your grocery order when you are PMSing. Because I did that, and I bought so many snacks, delicious treats. And nothing for dinners, nothing for meals. I put chicken nuggets on there, so I've been surviving on frozen chicken nuggets, but I'm really bummed out because I have to place another grocery order for proteins and food to cook.
You've influenced me to start purchasing my groceries via I purchase my groceries now over for Amazon, but how do you buy your groceries? Amazon?
I rotate. I rotate because I'm gluten-free, so I have to get different things from different stores. So it kind of depends on the week, but I use Instacart to get Sprouts. Sprouts is my favorite grocery store ever. I use Amazon we have an Amazon Fresh, so I do Amazon Fresh or Whole Foods. And then sometimes I'll just do local pickup at my Ralph's Kroger store or whatever. It kind of just depends. But
wow. That's
it
pretty
saves
impressive.
so much time.
It really does. It saves so much time, especially now since we're working full time, and then basically this podcast is another part-time job.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Going to the grocery store is just not a priority anymore. And my husband's editing this podcast being like, yeah, I'm aware because we've been eating out every single day. But, yeah, get yourself that Amazon Prime. Getting the free grocery delivery saves my life, my lord.
Honestly, it saves me money, too, because, except for this, like I said, do not do your grocery order when you're PMSing. Normally, it saves me money because I'm not, like, perusing aisles and looking at stuff like, oh, that sounds good, let's toss it in. And you can actually, like, see your total as you're going, which is excellent. Very good for budgeting. Not that I know anything about budgeting, but it helps.
One time to kind of, this is like nothing to do with the podcast, so I'm sorry everyone, just fast forward if you don't want to hear us chat. But one time I'm friends with this couple, and they're both doctors, which is hilarious because Cameron and I are not anywhere close to being a doctor. But they were talking about hosting a party and then paying extra for the restaurant to deliver the food to the party. And I was like, wow, that's kind of expensive. And I said that in my head. I didn't say it out loud, obviously, because I'm a kind person. But I was like thinking, wow, that's really expensive. I hope one day I get to the point where I do that. And she said, it's almost like she was reading my mind, but she goes, yeah, honestly, I prioritize my time more. Like, my time is more expensive than, like, actually hiring other people to help me get things done. And I was like, what? Like, a beautiful way to say that. So
it's so true.
All that to say, Amazon or Instacart or whatever, if you want to sponsor us, we are welcome. We're open. Oh my gosh, please. Opening our arms.
Yes, I use it all the time.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with my low because...
Oh, you're going to start with a low.
I'm going to start with the low because then I always like to end on a high.
Yes, I know. I should have done that. My bad.
It's fine. My low is that it has snowed once again in Nashville.
Oh,
which
sad.
Is rough for Renee because I'm a Southern girl. Like 50s, I can handle. Anything below that is just not my jam. So, most people woke up and they're like, oh, it's snowing. A beautiful Instagram story. Oh, I'm so happy to drink my coffee in my robe and like all cuddled on my couch. And I'm like the angry cat meme right now where I'm just like so annoyed that there's snow on the ground and I have to like pull my trees in and I'm like totally that grandma right now.
No.
But it's okay. We're so close to spring. I'm really excited
when does it like get warm for you?
You know what, Lyssa? Who freaking knows? Okay, it wasn't supposed. It was like 70 degrees 2 days ago, and now there's snow on the ground.
That's the worst. Not that I know what snow is, but the temperature fluctuating like that is always such a like downer.
Yeah, it hurts my spirit. But onward, my high is I had a really fun meeting this week for work, and I feel like most of the time, like on a personal note for me, so before I worked in my job now, I worked in retail, and I feel like there's almost I don't know, like a lot of people always kind of like diss working in retail, and I think it's like definitely one of the most important jobs that I've ever worked in, because that's where I learned like customer service and like how to deal with angry people or like how to communicate better with people, or like really for me another thing was like opening up to people and like actually not being afraid to talk to people was a big one for me. But one thing like back end stuff is I learned all about Shopify, and in my job right now the influencer I work for, she is launching something in the fall of 2022, and we have to learn Shopify. And in the meeting, they're like, oh, we're going to have to hire someone that, like, knows how to handle all of this, like, back-end stuff. And I was, like, perking up a little, like, well, I already know what that is, so you don't have to hire someone. And it was kind of just, like, a moment where I was like, honestly, thank God I worked in retail. Because no one, I mean, like, I wouldn't have ever guessed that Shopify would help me, like, in my big girl job, you know?
Yeah.
So it was just kind of it was a moment where I was just like, what a, like, good feeling that I didn't just, like, waste my time in retail. Because I feel like a lot of people, they, like, go into that, like, what I'm trying to think of, like, the correct verbiage, but, like, that first step job or, like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Am I saying it correctly? Okay.
I think so.
And they're just
Almost
like,
like an entry.
I'm just, yeah, but they're just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to, like, work here for now, like, while I'm in college, and, like, I'm just going to, like, sail by, and it's just, like, easy money. But the fact that I, like, really took the time to, like, learn the back end stuff, like, now future me is so proud of. So that was my high of, like, knowing what the heck I was talking about in a meeting, which is, like, really could be my high every single week.
Seriously. I know exactly
when I know
what
something, you know, when you're in a meeting and you're like, I have the answer to that, and no one else knows the answer, it's kind of like a really good feeling.
It feels really good, especially like being an introvert and like actually, sometimes I know, and past Lyssa would know but wouldn't say anything. But I had a meeting, not this week, a few weeks ago, and same thing happened where I was like, wait, I can actually participate in this meeting, and I feel confident, and I can share things, and it was a really good feeling. So I know what you mean. Yeah. It's a good thing.
I remember you texted me right after that meeting. You were like, I shared, and I'm so proud of myself. So, like, if basically, like, we're not only helping others, we're, like, also learning ourselves through this podcast.
Yeah.
So, like, that's also a high for me.
Yes.
Well, career paths. Do you want to share it first, or you want me to share first?
You can go. Please, take the floor, Renee.
Okay. I'll go first. So, I grew up in Texas. I grew up in Houston, like a suburb of Houston. And I was a pretty competitive gymnast growing up. So, with that, I think I got my first job when I was like 13 or 14 years old, just like working at the gym. I know. But, you know, it's like not like a real job. You know, like I wasn't like teaching classes. It was more of like, oh, we're going to have like a lock-in at the gym. Like, you're a good kid. Do you want to like just like stay and we'll pay you $7 an hour? You know, that kind of job.
Yeah.
So I was like 13 or 14, and that was like my first job was working at the gymnastics gym that I worked at. But even with that, I kind of like learned how to talk to like other kids in that scenario, especially being a gymnast and like a competitive gymnast. Like I really, it's a very like isolated sport. So I, like we had, I want to say, I'm putting this in quotes, teammates, but like you didn't like your teammates because they were like almost your competition.
Yeah, so, you compete against each other, right?
Yeah, it's not like a team sport.
Yeah.
So I think that was like around the time that I like really started to like interact with kids like my age or like a little bit younger or a little bit older than me and kind of like be the leader of a situation. So that was like my first job, was working like at night camps at the gym. Then I became like pretty good at it and had to quit gymnastics because I broke my arm and went into cheerleading. But I went back to the gym that I worked at, and I taught team gymnastics. As like a 17-year-old, I was teaching like team kids gymnastics. And at the time, I was like, oh, duh, I'm going to get this job because like I was doing that stuff like 3 years ago. And so I was doing that. But now that I think about it, I'm like, wow, the fact that parents like trusted me with their children to like teach them things and spot them. And I was like probably the same size as them because I'm like pretty sure I'm like 5'4" and like, I mean, at the time, like 110 pounds, like tiny. So I was doing that, which then like that taught me how to like speak to parents confidently.
Yeah.
Which, you guys, who knows what I was saying to those parents now? Like,
oh my gosh, I feel like talking to parents is way scarier. Like, that is a whole other animal.
I mean, I feel like once you, like, get that job where you're getting that steady paycheck every 2 weeks, you're like, oh, I'm an adult, so I can talk to these parents. But, oh, I cringe at what I was probably saying to them. So then I was working there, but then to add on top of that, a lot of my friends were working at Smoothie King that was right next to our high school, like near our neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm going to work at Smoothie King first, or as well. So I was working at a gym. All at the time, I'm like 17 years old, working at a gymnastics gym, like at night from like 4 to 7:30. But from like 2:30 to 3:30, or I don't know, somewhere in between them, I was working at Smoothie King. Which I think back and I'm like, one, my parents thought I was just like grinding or what? Like I have no idea. And I think back and I'm like, the heck, when did I have time for all of this stuff?
Seriously.
I don't know. I was working like weekends at Smoothie King, but it was like kind of cool and fun because I was working with my friends. But
yeah.
Again, another like service industry job. I didn't work at any other restaurant other than Smoothie King. But like learned how to talk to people there and like learned how to deal with angry customers and like customer service and like really now that I think about it, organizing my time from like going to school to going to Smoothie King to going to the gymnastics gym to going home to like work on my homework to going to cheer practice with my friends. It's like I had like a pretty impressive schedule at the age of like 17 on. And I worked that my junior and senior year, and then I left for school. Yeah. But then I went to school, and I worked at a golf course.
Were you working through, like, the entire time you were going to school? Were you working the whole time?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. That's impressive. Okay, so you were working at the golf course.
Yeah, I was working at a golf course, which was, like, pretty random. Couldn't really tell you what I learned from that other than, like, just being able to carry myself well in front of old men. Like, great. And, like, protecting myself a bit there. Because, you know, men at golf courses, you know.
Could be a sticky situation.
Could be, but I will admit, like, the people that I was around, I never felt that way, but
that's good.
I had heard, like, stories, you know, but I was always, like, watching my back for myself there. Yeah. But I learned, like, tea times, and like I said, you guys, very, like, random job, like, but another, like, really great opportunity for me to, like, work part-time, but then also go to school full-time, and then I was also a nanny part-time, and so I was basically working full-time going to school, which is hard work. It's really hard work, and I know there are plenty of other people doing it out there, but go, you guys. Like, if you're doing it, like, you're a rock star, because I remember just being like, I don't know how this is gonna turn out. Then, this is so long. Is this okay that this is so long? Is yours gonna be this long? Okay. Then, I moved to Seattle, and I worked at a gymnastics gym there, because really, I didn't really, like, want to do anything else. I, like, really did love and enjoy coaching. And I was 20 at the time, and kind of just started off, like, as a normal coach, and then worked my way, like, a year in. They asked if I wanted to become the manager of the daytime program, and which is basically just building a curriculum and managing all classes from, like, 18 months to 5-year-olds. So I was in charge from, like, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the gym.
Oh, that's cool.
And then someone else would take over from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. And so I was the youngest manager. I was 21 whenever I accepted the manager position. Wow. And I remember my first job, or my first meeting, or, like, thing to do as a manager was sit down and one of, like, my favorite things, or, like, something I was, like, excited for the role was to have the weekly manager meetings, mostly because I was really nosy and like, obviously now I have a podcast, but I loved like chatting about like what was going on.
Yeah.
And so it was my first meeting, and they like, in my defense, they did not prepare me well for this meeting because I had no idea what we were doing. But they were like, okay, Renee, like what's going on in your department? And I remember I sat there and immediately was like, what am I doing here? Like, what did I get myself into? I don't know what's going on in my department. I didn't know that this was my department. It was like my first day on the job. I don't even know if I had like an official email. Like, I don't even think my employees knew that I was their manager yet. Yeah. And I remember sitting there and then being like, don't cry because you're going to look weak. And like,
oh my gosh.
That's the Texan in me right there. And I was like, don't cry, don't show emotion. And I think I BS'd my way through that whole meeting. But then I definitely went to the bathroom and like let out a little tear.
I am dead. Oh my
At 21 years old, whoever thought they could give me that role was, oh my gosh.
I know, that's a big one.
Yeah. So, I'm thankful for the role now because, like, I really did learn, like, a lot about, like, managing people. Yeah. And that was before I, like, finished my degree. I guess I kind of skimmed over that. Is I dropped out of college, moved to Seattle, started working at the gym because I had no idea what I wanted to study in school. I was studying fashion merchandise, thought I was going to move to Paris and become basically the Reese Witherspoon in Sweet Home Alabama, like, getting the models all ready and going, like, go, and like telling the models when to walk. Yeah. I was living in La La Land. Okay.
Yeah. Not so much. Not
and
for Renee.
So no. I like laugh at. I mean, I think it's funny because it's like that role that I thought that I was going to be in, like, is kind of like what I'm doing now, except I'm not like dressing models, but like it is like being the project manager of something, or like like getting stuff done is like what I do now. So it makes sense now, but I wish someone at the time would have been like, maybe pivot a little and think this way, but no one did that for me. So cheers.
You figured it out.
Cheers to you guys.
You got there.
So that's when I moved to Seattle, became a manager, learned a lot. And then my husband, he was not my husband at the time, Cameron, we were just dating. He moved to Nashville. I stayed in Seattle because I loved it. And then he told me, oh, I'm going to move to Nashville for music. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stay in Seattle because I don't have a ring on my finger, so I'm not moving. Yeah. And I lived in the city, and I loved it. I'm such a city girl. And started digging deeper into, like, our company's social media. And they didn't even have an Instagram at the time. And this is, like, 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago. And which is kind of crazy because that's when Instagram was like big. Yeah. So I started their Instagram and was like on top of being the director of the day program, also doing the social media, and working like honestly 50-hour weeks, but like just thriving like in that situation. Totally. And that's when I kind of like figured out like, oh, I think I like social media. Like, I don't know what it is about this. And I didn't think that it was ever going to be like I didn't ever think working in like social media could be a full-time position. I thought it was just like, oh, this is my side project. Yeah. So, started doing that, moved to Nashville, in hopes that Cameron and I would get married. Spoiler alert, we got married. And started working in retail.
I just have to pause you for a second because I really wish I would have known you then, because I would love to have just had a front row seat to how all of that played out.
Like what? Like me moving to Nashville?
Yeah. Yes. I'm going to FaceTime you after this because I need to know the story.
I mean, like, long story short, moving my whole life to Nashville and my, like, little Mazda. I have a Mazda CX-5. So it's like a mom car. Moving my whole life in that car, driving from Seattle all the way down to Nashville was such a beep show.
Did you guys live together in Seattle?
No.
Okay.
We had roommates. We had separate roommates. Because Cameron went to University of Washington, and then I was living, like, downtown area.
Yeah.
So we lived in, like, different areas of Seattle, but, like, close enough.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah. So then I moved to Nashville, started working in retail. Loved it. Learned a lot, obviously. Learned all about, like, the back end, like, inventory stuff. Became a manager at that place. And COVID happened, and I was like, I think I want to get out of retail because I kind of want my weekends. So then I started working in this job, and now it's like, joke's on you. I'm still working on weekends. No, not as much. But now it's like, haha, you're going to start a whole other business, and the right-hand gals is going to be taking over your weekends. And
I know, really. We're recording this on a Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, so, but can't complain. Like, I feel like from each job, I've taken so much from each role.
Yes.
And that's what I kind of, like, I feel like that was really long, and I'm so sorry. But I feel like from each one of those, like, nothing, like, crazy, like, nothing special jobs, like, I really did, like, learn, like, the management side. And I really took away a lot of important factors of, like, really my job, how I thrive in my job today, like being able to manage an employee and like being able to project manage like a whole upcoming business or being able to start a podcast. Like there's so many things that you can take from that first like step job that will help you in your career. So if you are, I just want to encourage anyone that if you are working a retail job, or if you're working at a bar, or if you're working at a restaurant right now, like use that. And if there's someone that you really admire, like a boss or another coworker, like use them and learn from them and like remember those things that you're learning because it's going to help you later in life. Because if you would have told me 3 years ago, oh, you're going to need to know Shopify for your future job, like I wouldn't believe you. But now that this is all happening and I'm helping start something, it's kind of like how crazy that I already have this experience just from working in retail. So just like take that with you.
It's like you don't even have to like fully understand at the moment that what you're learning kind of is giving you life lessons. I think a lot of times it's hard to recognize it when it's happening because maybe it's stressful or whatever it is. But I always think it's so important when you leave a job to reflect on your time at that job and kind of just like see what you can take from it. But a little bit about my experience. This is probably going to be just as lengthy as yours.
It's fine. It's a length. Yeah, this one's going to be a little long, you guys. But this is a great question, and I feel like we need to like put all those details out there.
Yeah, I think our goal with this episode kind of going through detailing each of our jobs is just to kind of encourage you that there's no linear path. Like all jobs are good jobs. But I think my first job was, I was 17. It was my senior year. And I worked at our local harvest festival. Woo! It was like 6 weeks or something, and I worked the drink cart thing with like 2 other girls, and all we did was sell drinks to thirsty patrons. That was it. Great. And I hated it because math is the hardest subject ever for me. And it was all cash. This is like, I think the place like didn't allow cards or something. So everything was cash. And it was on a farm. So everything was dirty, dusty. It was not my favorite job. But I did it. And I did it because kind of like your Smoothie King, everybody had jobs there senior year. Like it was just, that's just where you worked. And you worked with your friends or just like other people your age. So it was fun. And I never did it again. I learned that was not for me. That's what I took away from that job. And then after that, I think it was like towards the end of my senior year, like into summer, maybe not. Hold on. This is a long time ago. I think it was after after Harvest Festival, but before summer, because I had a different job by summer. I worked at a photography place, just like the local photography place, as a receptionist. And I would just like call different elementary schools to book all their school pictures and stuff like that. I booked all the senior pictures, the ones where you go in with like the black velvet, you know what I'm talking about? The fancy ones. We booked all those for all the local high schools. So it was a lot of booking on their system and calendars and all of that stuff, and managing all the phone calls coming in, dealing with all the clients coming in. There were a lot of angry clients, people who didn't like their pictures, people who didn't get their pictures fast enough. So I learned a ton at that job, and I wasn't there for very long.
That's a huge job.
Yeah, it was.
For a senior.
And I loved it. Like, I think in that job, I learned specifically that I was good at that, at like the front desk type of operations. I really liked managing a calendar. I hated calling for reminder appointments, but like even as I continued on in my career, that was something that I never liked about those type of roles. But I kind of like got out of my comfort zone a little bit with it. I also I don't like talking to people I don't know. It makes me really nervous. And I think starting from that young age was instrumental in like just me getting used to it. I didn't have to like it, but I got used to it. So I think starting when I was a senior was really kind of important for me personally. So I did that. And then by what it would have been like June, I guess, of that same senior year, I was about to graduate. I graduated, and the next week, the music department of my high school offered me a job teaching percussion with the music department. I was in drumline all 4 years, and I was really good and all that stuff. So I taught percussion for 2 years right after I graduated, and then that job was tough because I was so young, and a lot of the music staff are like actual musicians who go to college and like study music. And even though I was talented, like I didn't have the life experience I think that I needed to excel in that role. And I was teaching my peers, like literally my friends. I didn't have time to like get away and come back. And I don't, truly looking back, I don't know why they hired me other than to like save on budget. Like, I just don't know. So I went into it, and then I think a year after I had been there running an entire department by myself, they hired a professional, and we clashed because the students didn't want to listen to this person. They wanted to listen to me, and it didn't work out. And very quickly I was like, I don't want to be here when I'm the age of the people who are running this department. I just didn't see that for myself long term. I, at the time, kind of wanted to go to school and get my degree in percussion performance. And then after being around adults who took that path, I thought that it wasn't for me. I didn't know what I wanted, but none of them seemed happy. And I think that was the biggest influence, that it just didn't seem like a comfortable life. They all kind of felt like they were still living out their high school days, which was so weird to me. Maybe because I was so young at the time, but I loved it so much. And then something just like went sour, and it wasn't right anymore. And I left after 2 years. I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to do something else. Like, I need to get away from this bubble and just figure out what I want to do.
That's really wise for like an 18, 19-year-old to like feel and realize.
Yeah, it was weird. I will tell you that. It was really weird. But then after that, I kind of was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And the local YMCA was hiring. And my mom was a teacher up until a few years ago. She retired, so she had always taught elementary school. And my brother he was a teacher at the time. And so I was like, maybe like kids is my thing. So, which is really ironic now, but at the time I was like, let me try kids. So I got the job at the Y and I loved it. It was so much fun. I really liked that like elementary school age. And I don't remember how long I was there, but the only reason I left is because the wage was so low. It was like minimum wage, and I was like, I want to get a job with kids at some like sort of facility where they actually like pay you more money. So I was there a couple of years maybe, and then I went on to a nonprofit with kids. And this was like my longest job at this point. So I was at that job for, I think, 4.5 years, and I started as an assistant in the program, and there were different locations for each of these, like child services is what the department was called. So I was an assistant in the child services. We had like an after school program for low income kids, and they came in, and that was a really special job for me because a lot of these kids had no stability and they didn't have like a solid adult figure. And so it was me and a partner, like a coordinator, for, I don't know, like 30 some kids, whatever. And it was year round. In the summer, we put on a summer camp. And so we would go on weekly trips with all the kids from the whole nonprofit, which was like over 100 kids. And it was so much fun. That job taught me so much because it was a full-time job. So during the day when the kids were in school, we were planning things. We were meeting with other departments. We were like this integral part of a nonprofit, which was really cool to see how a nonprofit works. And it felt really good to serve the community. So that was something I really liked. And I liked kind of being this like landing place for these kids. So I thought like this was it. This is what I'm going to stick with. And then we got a new president in a few years later who made all these changes, moved us all around, and the kids weren't happy. They could tell that we weren't happy, and nothing meshed anymore. I think because they moved around all the assistants and their coordinators. I did move up to coordinator, and I hated it. And I was like, I don't like this. I like when there are two people, regardless of their title, or however many people, but regardless of the title, what mattered to me was that it worked, and that like everybody kind of had their strong suits and you could all play to them, and it did not matter who was quote unquote higher or not. And that showed. So once everybody got shuffled around with the new president, they gave me an ultimatum and they told me that I could stay where I was and I would have to step down from my coordinator position, or I'd have to move to a new location to keep my coordinator position. And obviously that meant there was a pay cut involved. And I was like, nope, I can't do this. And it was really heartbreaking because I knew I was leaving those kids. And after that, I was like, maybe the kid life isn't for me. And I am not like a kid lover, but I had a relationship with those kids and that was special. So after that, I was unemployed for 6 months, which I don't recommend like intentionally, but there is something very special to being unemployed. I like took that time and I was actively looking for work for 6 months, but I was very picky about every single job that I came across. I know that not everybody has the like luxury to be unemployed. So I totally like amen to my parents right there.
Yeah.
I was living with
Very
my parents.
privileged.
I didn't have, bills or anything crazy. So it was fine. My parents were like not pressuring me. They were just encouraging me. I think because leaving that job with the kids was so mentally draining and so hard, they were like, it's fine. You'll find whatever you're meant to do next. So 6 months goes by and I find a receptionist job at a CPA, just like a private CPA, whatever, small office. I was like, you know what? I don't want to work with a ton of people again. Like that nonprofit had so many employees. There were so many personalities. Let me find something small. So I interviewed there. It was fine, just like, your average run-of-the-mill, good old secretary job. Answering phones, scheduling, all the stuff that I knew that I had experience in and that I was decent at. I was like, let me just go here and see if maybe I can be like a career secretary, you know?
So is that why you chose that role? Like, because you were exactly very like intentional. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I was like, okay, this, you know, secretary, reception, those type of jobs can be career jobs. And I knew that they could eventually, like, you know, pay pretty decently. It opens doors for other types of roles in the office type of world. And so I was like, sure, let me try it. So I go in, and I think it was like right before tax season that I got hired. So I'm like thrown into this insane world of tax season, but I have nothing to compare it to. So I'm like, yes, sure. Like, let's do it. So I was working crazy hours. Like, it was insane. And I got through it at the end, and I was like, okay, like, if that's the hardest part, the rest is cake, like, you know? So we get through it the whole year. I have, I think, 3 coworkers, and I don't like love anybody. It's just like, you kind of just deal with it. Yeah. It's not like I have like a work best friend. It's just, it is what it is. And I quickly learned that it was not just a secretary job. I was almost a personal assistant for the owner of the CPA, getting his dry cleaning, scheduling all of his meetings, all his networking events, which comes back to my like PTSD for networking events, paying his like outstanding DMV stuff. Like, it became more than I felt was fair. And then I got a promotion to office manager, and I was like, okay, well, I'm getting paid more, like, sure, whatever. Next tax season rolls around, and he says he's going to hire somebody to help me out. Hire somebody, fires them a few days later. I go through tax season alone. I get through tax season, and I'm like, I'm not doing this again. It just, he wasn't kind. And I saw the way he spoke about people when they weren't around, and I didn't like that. And so I was like, well, I'm really good at this. You know, I got a promotion. I'm good at these tasks. I can make lists and get the things done. And at one point, you know how you have those like employee reviews? We have a review, and he tells me that I often lose sight of the goal. And I was like, that's interesting, because I write the goals down. And I realized it wasn't me. It wasn't me that was losing sight of the goal. It was him that was unable to communicate it to me, but I didn't know that at that time.
Yeah.
And so we get through the second tax season, and I am burnt out. And it's a thankless job at this point, right? He puts on these shows of bringing in flowers for all of us girls in the office and things like that. And it just felt yucky. Yeah. And so I started looking for something else. And I actually ended up going into training for Pilates. So now I'm teaching Pilates before or whatever, after work, whatever it is, working this CPA job. Then I see a role come up for a marketing assistant. And I was like, oh, that could be cool. Like, let me just see. I apply. It's just this one guy. He owns his own business, just out of his house, like super chill. And he's like, yeah, you got the job. And I was like, okay. Stoked to quit my CPA job. I can't even tell you.
I go blinders like, on almost.
Yeah, I go in and I'm like, I got another job. I'll give you 2 weeks, but I'm out of here. Like, I am checked out.
Yeah.
And
which that's all you like really have to give for like those kind of jobs.
Yes.
Like,
and he was so like hurt by me leaving that he was like, you don't even need to stay for the 2 weeks. Like, just go, like, whatever. And I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh.
Thankfully, I was still teaching Pilates classes, so I had like a little bit of income still coming in. And then I started that marketing job, and it was such a weird job, the marketing job. Like, I still don't even know to this day, like, what we were doing. Like, he was doing stuff with the adult industry, and I was like transcribing stuff, and I was like, whatever, man. Like, it's a job.
Adult industry, like
the adult industry.
Okay, so everyone knows what that means.
Yeah, that's all we'll say there. We had a project that was that. But I also did stuff for real estate. We had a real estate newsletter that I did every week and whatever. And
Okay.
learned a ton about SEO, about funnels, about like heat maps, like all kinds of interesting things. He gave me books and he was just like a chill guy. And that was what I needed after that insane CPA job. So I was doing that and it was part-time. I was teaching Pilates part-time. And then a new fitness studio was opening up and I thought, I really want to get into like more management in the fitness industry. A few months had gone by and I had become studio manager at the Pilates studio. So studio manager, Pilates, marketing, teaching Pilates classes. This new studio opens up and I become, I don't remember my title there, but it was a front desk manager. That's what it was. Okay. So not manager of the studio, but manager of all like the employees, whatever. And there were 2 of us depending on the shift. I loved it. I loved working in fitness. I had an insane schedule. Getting to the cycling studio at 5:30 to open, going through that, marketing from like 12 to 4, Pilates classes from 5 to 7. Crazy, right? I was insane. I don't know what was going on. But I learned so much. Being a studio manager at both of those studios was huge because similar to you, I got a ton of experience with people, with problems, and I welcomed it. I think that was like the biggest takeaway for me is like, if there's a problem, you go after it. Like, go figure out how to solve it. If that's talking to somebody higher up, do it. It's okay to ask for help. And having those 2 studio manager roles was, I could feel the growth happening. It was crazy. So I loved both of those jobs. And I was, I don't know how long I did that for. Maybe 2.5-ish years, right around there. And then it got to be a lot. And I was bouncing around town like a crazy person. And I was like, I need to find like one job. Like one job for someone good who I feel secure with and I can grow with and stay with for a long time. I had really missed the security that I had at that nonprofit for so long. And so I found the job posting for a personal assistant for a blogger. And I applied and we hit it off. And that was how I ended up in the industry. But it was just like, I feel like I took the twistiest, turviest way to get there. It was just like all kinds.
I mean, same. I feel like really, because we started working so early on and like, obviously you don't really like start working in like your career,
Totally.
Your like quote unquote big girl job, because that's what everyone calls it, until like your later or mid 20s. So yeah, there's like a lot of time in between that. What would you say was like something that you took to that role with the blogger from like all of your jobs? Like what did you learn the most, you would say?
That's hard because, that I took from that role?
Yeah.
Into what I'm doing now?
Yeah.
I think just the ability to like be flexible and like be ready and willing to jump into any kind of project. I think the willingness and openness to want to learn. I specifically remember at that CPA job, I hated doing anything that was not for my role. But I think it was because I didn't feel like it was a team effort there. It felt like tasks were being passed off to me because someone else didn't want to do them. Whereas when...
Yeah, that's not a good feeling.
No. And when I was at the role with the influencer, it was such a team effort from everybody. Everybody was willing to... we had a small team, but like the 3 of us were always willing to jump in and do whatever, whenever. And I think that like collaborative effort really allowed me to like thrive because everybody was happy. Everybody enjoyed it. And I think seeing other people enjoy what they're doing kind of makes you look at yourself and say, am I enjoying this or is this not what I want to do? And if you're truly like excited about it and happy about it and the people around you are too, I think it's a lot easier to enjoy the day to day and allow yourself to learn from it. Because there were definitely times in my life when like that was not the case. People weren't happy when I was 19 and I saw those adults teaching percussion to high schoolers. They weren't happy. And I didn't want that for myself. So I think looking back, I think happiness was always like what was in the back of my head. And seeing that when I was with the influencer was like, that was all I needed.
Yeah, the job kind of like brought you back to life in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just like job that didn't set me on fire after job that didn't set me on fire.
Yeah.
Until it did.
That's awesome. I love hearing stories like what other people have done. And we've never talked about this either. Like,
no, we haven't.
So I'm like also like hearing this for the first time with everyone, which is like pretty exciting and pretty fun.
Yeah.
I think like a common denominator between both of us in our like past job history is poor leadership.
Yes.
And I think like we've dealt with poor leadership, like I said, in like past jobs.
Yeah.
And now, which is kind of like encouraged us both to be like really great leaders. Like for me, we just hired another employee, so I manage that employee. And something that I try to keep in mind all the time is that, of course, she is here to like help the team, but I also need to make it a responsibility for myself, for her, that she feels like she's not just getting like thrown lists of things that I don't want to do, like you just said with your other job that you didn't like, because that's not a good feeling. And I think everyone has experienced that, and I think everyone agrees that it's just such a bummer when you like know that it's just a passed down job. So I always try to make it like when we do our check-ins I think we do them like every other month or like every quarter at least. One of the questions I ask is, how can I better support you? And actually, when I told my dad, because my dad is a business owner and my dad's pretty young. He's like 47 or 48. My parents had me really young. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really young.
Yeah, they're babies. But he's a business owner as well. And he's been an entrepreneur like since I was a kid. Like, I think that's like where my love of like wanting to start something myself has come from, is from my dad. Yeah. But whenever I was visiting him last time, he owns a restaurant in Texas. He was talking about his employees, and I was like, well, when's the last time you've done a check-in with them? And he was like, a check-in? Why would I do a check-in? And I was like, I think I was like, actually my eyes, because my face is like pretty expressive. Like, like whenever I'm like telling myself, okay, you're in a meeting and you need to like control the face, I can. But like in that moment where I was just like it caught me off guard, frankly. And I was just like, what do you mean? Why do you need to do a check-in? I think I like immediately turned into like boss babe for a sec. Ugh, I hate saying that. No, scratch that. I turned into something where I was just like, you're not my dad anymore. I'm just going to tell you, you're wrong. Like, why are you not doing check-ins with your employees? Like, why do you not think that's important? And now, like, his number one thing whenever he hires someone is, like, making sure he's doing those check-ins with his employees and taking the time to do that. And I'm like, you go, Dad. Like, look at you so learning from your 27-year-old daughter.
That is so awesome.
But, yeah, it sucks whenever you're, like, working for a job and, like, the management is just, like, not there and they're just, like, not good at leading a team. It's like such a bad feeling. And I know other people, like I said, they're probably currently dealing with that, or they've definitely dealt with that in the past. So I feel for you.
It became something that was like so important to me as I like continued going through jobs. I don't think it was till I found that job with the influencer that I was like, wow, we're all here for the same reason, and it felt like it. You always hear everybody's like here for the common goal and like whatever it is. But I truly think it's so hard to find. And like that job was the biggest blessing because it showed me what was possible. Before that, I didn't know that like, you know, I truly thought I was going to be like a secretary forever. And I was okay with that. Like I said, I was good at it. But then I learned that there was like so much more in it. For me, it became so important to have that collaborative effort, common goal, just like almost like a camaraderie, just an understanding of like, we're all here for the same thing. We'll pick up each other's slack when we need to. We'll encourage each other. And it felt true and honest. It wasn't just like, yeah, you're doing a great job. Mm-hmm. It was the real deal. And that was like a huge, huge moment for me. I remember coming home from work so many days. My mom was like, oh, how's work today? And I was like, Mom, it was so great. Like, we did this and this. And like, it was just like I said, it truly like lit me on fire. And I'd never had a job like that. I also didn't go to school. So I didn't have like, I don't know, there was just like, I didn't know what to expect when I was looking for a job, having not gone to school. I had no degree. I didn't have like high expectations for myself. And so that job like truly changed the trajectory of my life entirely.
That's so cool. Well, to kind of wrap it up, do we want to give like everyone some advice moving forward?
Yes.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. My advice is to figure out what it is that you want out of a job. Do you want to be happy? Do you want to make a lot of money? Do you want to be successful? What is it, so that you can kind of pinpoint that a little bit more as you are taking different opportunities or getting promotions or whatever it is. I think it kind of helps you like to narrow in on the right role for you each move you make, as long as you have whatever that goal is in your mind. And I know usually we have like multiple goals. I want to be successful so I can buy a house, so I can provide for my family, whatever it is. But there's always going to be that like kind of like pinnacle goal that will help you narrow in on the steps that you need to take in order to get there. What would yours be?
Yeah, I liked that. That was really good. Sorry, I was just like listening, like dazing off, like, oh, I can do this. Like not even going through anything rough. And I'm just like, yes, keep talking, Lyssa. My goal would, or I'm sorry, blah, 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 blah. My advice would be to be where you are and whatever job you have right now. And it might not be the job you want to have in 5 years. It might not be the job you want to have in 5 months, but try to take and gather as much information and like learn as much as you can from that job. Even if it's like, I have a really bad manager, learn what not to do by having that manager, and then go into a new role and become a manager that's like amazing and that you're going to be able to support your employees. Or maybe it's, I don't know, it could be anything, but just like take from the jobs that you have before you have your final job and keep building on top of that, and then keep growing more dreams. Like, don't be afraid to dream of like any role, because I mean, like, I think we're in a place right now for Lyssa and I where it's like this podcast, like I've said in the past, like if someone would have told me 5 years ago that I'd be having a podcast with my friend sharing and giving advice of like how to basically chase your dreams and work in an industry that you're super passionate about, it would have been, I would have laughed. Like I would have laughed, and then I would have been like, stop making fun of me. Like I would have, I'm so insecure where I'm like, you're just like making fun of me. And don't be afraid of those dreams. Like you don't have to share with everyone like what those dreams are, but like keep setting goals for yourself, and they're going to come true. Like manifest it, say it's going to happen, and it's going to happen. You just have to keep working hard, and you're going to get there, and just keep working hard. And yeah, I hope that's good advice. I hope that like makes sense to someone.
I hope that really like good.
Strikes a chord with someone. But
yes,
if 5 years ago, if I would have heard that, I feel like I would have like started this a lot sooner. So
yeah, absolutely.
Don't be afraid of a timeline, because there really is one.
This was not my plan for myself, let me tell you that.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like you haven't, I mean, you literally said at one point that you didn't like have many, like, I'm butchering it. You didn't say you didn't have like many goals for yourself, but you like weren't anticipating like you becoming a business owner, and like look at you now. You're like looking to hire for yourself, and that's crazy.
I know. I got really caught up in not having a degree and everybody around me having a degree, and I was okay with whatever that meant because that was a choice that I made. But like I said, all it takes is having, kind of ironically, I'm going to use this word, having the right influences around you to kind of show you what you're capable of. And once you take that and truly believe in yourself, like, the sky's the limit. I know they say that all the time, but truly, like, you can achieve anything.
Yeah. And get yourself a friend that will lift you up whenever you're feeling a little down, because there's definitely times where I like am texting Lyssa about and making up problems, and she's just like, stop, like, just like stop doing that, because everything is going to be fine. And sometimes you just need a friend to be like, you're being ridiculous. So surround yourself with people and like find that person for you. You don't have to have like a ton of friends, really.
No,
I have like
really,
one good friend in this industry.
One. Yes, yeah, one good
and that's
friend.
Lyssa for me.
Yeah,
so
it's Renee for me.
Shocker, we're doing a podcast together.
I know. So if you are in need of friends, you can find us on Instagram at the Right Hand Gals. We are always there for you.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you wanted to add to the episode? I think I'm done.
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. Well, we will see you next week. We're so excited to have another podcast. Oh my God. No. Another episode.
Another episode.
Not yet. I'm like manifesting another podcast. No. We're so excited to have another episode come out. We think you're really going to like next week's episode. But we are your Right Hand Gals, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.